and good morning, Blue Jays fans. I'm your host, Craig Borden. Welcome to Jays Latest. Do you like what we're doing here? Please hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons because we're going to have Blue Jays news for you every day. So let's talk Blue Jays baseball because this was a hell of a battle we were heading to do yesterday in Chavez Ravine in LA. The Blue Jays looking for a win as they needed to because they were starting to fall really far behind in this whole series with the Dodgers, trying to avoid a sweep. The Blue Jays needed a win, especially to even keep pace in the American League East with the Yankees and the Red Sox nipping at their heels. So on that note, the Blue Jays were looking for that W elusively. At this point. And in the midst of this, it was just interesting to see how this team banded together and finally got that W yesterday. But it was a battle of epic proportions, playoff vibes. Currently in the playoff race, but in the power rankings, the Blue Jays rank number 5 and the Dodgers are number 3. So this is the best teams in Major League Baseball. Potential playoff eventuals if a World Series happens. The reigning World Series champs, the Toronto Blue Jays, trying to take them down. So, building up to this, it was very epic. Eric Lawler was going to face Tyler Glasnow in this game, and it was going to be a good showing. Lauer has been on fire. Tyler Glasnow has got a record for beating the snot out of the Toronto Blue Jays throughout his career. Yes, and I'm not even pulling any punches there. Tyler Glasnow had our number, period, and that did not change as the Blue Jays went to battle yesterday. So let's talk about the battle. Both teams were having all sorts of hard times in this game trying to figure out how to get over the hurdle. Back and forth, much of it. The Dodgers jumped out to a big lead in the first inning after the Blue Jays scored in the first two. It was very back and forth. Vlad Jr. got the scoring started in the top of the first with a double that drove in Bo Bichette, but quickly erased on a Shohei Ohtani home run in the first inning for the Dodgers. And then Freddie Freeman follows that up with a bomb as well. Freddie Free continuing to be Captain Clutch that he has always been. So never doubt in my mind that Freddie Freeman is always going to be a threat because his swing is just something of beauty. Shohei Ohtani and him going deep in the first inning puts the Dodgers up 2-1 at the time. And then the Blue Jays kind of allowed some things just to happen over some of these other innings. And in the midst of this, it was not a fun afternoon to watch if you're a fan of good pitching. Freddie Freeman actually literally took a walk in the third inning and scored a run because the bases were loaded. Eric Lauer does squeeze out of it. It was like I said, bases loaded situation. It could have been dire, but they wiggle out of it. And that was the theme for both teams yesterday. Wiggling out of jams that they created. The Dodgers were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position yesterday. The Blue Jays were 1 for 5. So it was not a good day to be, standing apparently out on the bases because you might get stuck there. So in the sixth inning, the Blue Jays started wiggling back into it. A perfectly placed single by Ty France that he hit too hard, lands in the outfielder's glove. He hit it too soft, it lands in the infielder's glove. It just kind of bloops over the infield, scores Bo Bichette, who had doubled, or singled actually. I have to take that back. But either way, they put another run on the board. And then Vlad Jr. in the 8th comes up huge, lights a fire under this team's ass, gets them moving. A solo home run, but his 19th of the season tied the game up at 3 at this point in the top of the 8th. And the Blue Jays did not stop there. Back-to-back jacks. Addison Barger coming up clutch like he continues to do. Hits his 18th home run of the year. And this was a missile that went to the right field stands. Puts the Blue Jays up 4-3. But that's what happens when you can get your best player going. Vladdy gets going to the point where he hits that home run. And then back-to-back with Addison Barger. We've seen that a few times this season. Barger coming up huge in the clutch when needed to with a monster home run. I want somebody to look that stat up. How many of his 18 home runs were actually to go ahead? There you go. That would be a fun one. Then we move on to the horrible bomb of the 8th inning. Yariel Rodriguez worked into some trouble, but I was actually kind of content that he was throwing good stuff and he was going to wiggle out of it. But John Schneider goes to the bullpen and brings in Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman proceeds to have one of the worst bullpen outings I think I ever seen. And I made some comparisons to in the mid of this thing that he was looking like Jason Frazier, was an old Blue Jay that liked to work himself into trouble, but he always found a way out of it for most of the time. The problem is that Jeff Hoffman has been working into trouble and not finding a way out of it. And yesterday, this was really rough. So before I tell you what happened, let me just throw this one to you. Jeff Hoffman threw 18 pitches, records 2 outs, one in the 8th inning, one in the 8th inning, one in the 9th. He walked 5. So he only threw 7 strikes in that time period and gets the saddle with a blown save. It was incredibly hard to watch. I was sitting there kind of like going like this, peeking through the fingers every once in a while. And the biggest problem is the Blue Jays didn't have the bullpen that they needed to really support this yesterday because of Eric Lawler only making it so far into the game. It was going to get worse. But anyways, in the 8th, he does get out of it. Blue Jays were, tied 4-4 going into the 9th. Ernie Clement hits a home run and just ambushes the first pitch. Awesome swing. Puts the Blue Jays up 5-4. Then Jeff Hoffman comes back out for the 9th, and that's where the wheel really went off for the trailer going here. Hoffman loads the bases. I can't make this stuff up. Doesn't throw enough strikes, walks the bases loaded. And then Mason Fluharty comes in, and this is where we're going to talk a little bit more. Mason Fluharty, I'm just going to call it core memory unlocked, because Mason Fluharty in the 9th inning with the bases loaded and only 1 out had a massive uphill climb to deal with here. He had Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts to deal with, 2 former MVPs, and one that's actually on his way to another back-to-back MVP with Shohei Ohtani. So it was a 12-pitch at bat with 10-pitch at bat with Shohei Ohtani, and he finally gets him to go fishing on the last strike and walks away unscathed. Pumped up would be the biggest way of saying it. So at this point, then you get Mookie Betts to ground out and win the game. Mason Fluharty picks up his first Major League Baseball save. Lefty looked damn good on the mound today. Can't say enough good things of what he had to saddle himself up for and run with in this thing. So, yeah, I'm going to quote the Red Sox that he cowboyed up pretty good. Thank you, Kevin Millar. So the Blue Jays do walk out with a win in this series, a much-needed win, keeps pace with the American League East. The Blue Jays still currently 4 games ahead heading into the off day here on Monday. So let's talk that off day. The Blue Jays are heading back to Toronto. They're going to prep up for the Cubs coming to town. Another big test of their mettle, but it will be at home, which has become their sanctuary at 38-19, playing in games in the Rogers Center Skydome, and it will be fun to watch. So make sure you tune in, everybody, and see what's going to happen. First game, we're going to get Jose Barrios versus Ben Brown. The youngster has been having a season. In 92 and a third innings, he has a 6.04 ERA with a 1.44 WHIP. He is striking out a lot of batters, 104 strikeouts, but he has been having some ups and downs, but he is on a massive ride up over his last 3 outings. He only allowed 2 hits to the Cincinnati Reds in his last outing, 1 earned run. The Chicago White Sox, he blew through, shocking. And then the Kansas City Royals tagged him up. But right now he's currently riding those 2 nice wins with 4 and 5 strikeouts in each of them. Jose Barrios will be on the mound for the Blue Jays and has been, I'll say Jose Barrios the last few starts. His start against the Baltimore Orioles was a little short, but only allowing 2 runs, 6 hits. 7 hits in his last outing against the Rockies, 3 earned runs. And then Detroit, he held in check with 6 innings of work, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. That was 3 starts ago. Barrios has been very up and down over the last few, but those last 3 starts were typical everyday Jose Barrios, keeping the Blue Jays in the game and going with it. So over his last 7, he is 4-1 with a 5.71 ERA because there's that giant outing against the Baltimore Orioles in there, not the one I just mentioned. So anyways, none of these teams have faced either of these guys very much. Even Jose Barrios has only seen Reese McGuire, funny enough, on the Cubbies, and Willie Castro. So at the end of the day, not a lot to work on. Kyle Tucker has a home run against Barrios, and Justin Turner as well, but not a lot of at-bats to speak of here. But we'll go from there, Blue Jays fans. Enjoy the off day, and we'll see you here tomorrow to talk all things prep for that Cubbies series, and we'll go from there. Go Blue Jays. See ya.